Really happy to have you over here.
But what happened there was very interesting. Sold my roadside cafe to a Starbucks.
Did that incline you towards moving to Deloitte?
A member in a SEBI committee chaired by the great Mr. Narayan Murthy. It helped me refine my own thought process, engage with blue chip companies.
What do you have in mind when it comes to AI?
So I clearly see them playing different roles, all aggregating to machine learning.
One of the articles that you had written, you mentioned something about open networks.
And the officer said, please give me a copy of this video cassette.
Hello everyone and welcome to Coffee with CA. On this very episode, we have CA Nitin Shingala with us, where we're going to dive into numbers, finances and all things fun. So let's get into it with me, your host Geena Bharwani. Hello Nitin and welcome to the show. Really happy to have you over here. And first things first, congratulations on the diverse career that you have had in the past. My first question to you would be, what drove you to accounts and finance?
Thank you for having me here, Geena. Pleasure is all mine. What drove me to accounts and finance? It was probably in my destiny. My father has been always an accounts and finance professional, though he could not pursue CA due to his background. His father had to abandon Burma, where my father was born.
Okay.
And then he joined as a junior accountant in a leading industrial group, where from he retired as a managing director, though at the later stage. But while I was in school, my name was registered for articleship in a leading firm of chartered accountants, where there used to be a waiting list for joining as an article student. So I guess that was in my fate. But as I used to love mathematics, I think I took it very well to accounting, and I really liked it.
So did you go into a practice directly, or did you get into the industry first?
No, my first 2 years, I worked with another leading firm of chartered accountants in their management consulting. So a cousin of mine was getting into practice at that time, and he encouraged me to explore practice.
Okay.
Because his take was, Nitin, this gives you an opportunity to be an entrepreneur. So why don't you come and join me? And I also thought that my parents, both my parents, my father and my mother was a school teacher, so they were doing job throughout their life.
Okay.
I didn't have to at least worry for my bread. And so I thought, let me give it a shot. But what happened there was very interesting, because having done articleship in leading firm and working in another leading firm at that time, I used to engage with corporate clients.
Okay.
And when I got into practice with my cousin, it was all retail clients, and I somehow didn't gel with that. And so after a couple of years, I was, what should I do? Should I give up and join industry or another firm of accountants, or should I continue?
Okay.
So I thought of pursuing with my practice at that time, and took up part-time teaching jobs just to sustain myself. So I was a lecturer, professor in colleges for about 5-7 years, and then slowly and steadily the practice started building.
Oh, okay. So given that you also taught students, how well did you enjoy that when compared to your practice? If you had to make a choice today?
No, so teaching in undergraduate colleges is always fun, but it's difficult to draw students into regular college classes.
Correct.
And they are always looking for quick shortcut opportunities. So there was some struggle there, but I used to like engaging with the students. I used to explore creativity and all of that. But then it didn't make economic sense, to be very brutally honest about it.
That makes sense.
And then as soon as I started getting some traction in practice, I had to discontinue.
That's nice. So after practice, then what?
So very interestingly, my love for teaching continued thereafter also.
Okay.
And for about a few years, I used to be visiting faculty at leading management institutes in Mumbai.
Okay.
Jamnalal Bajaj Institute of Management Studies and Wellinkers.
Okay.
So that continued in terms of on and off. But what happened was in 90s, as we know, liberalization happened and a lot of multinationals were entering into India. And through a chance opportunity, I ended up, engaging with a leading global company to provide them outsourced accounting services.
Okay.
And I realized that as a small firm, perhaps this is a niche area where I could engage with blue chip companies, provide them clean hard work based services. At the same time, I was the first port of call for any of their complex issues and problems, because otherwise for retail clients, engaging in tax practice back those days when you had to physically interface with tax authorities was not always pleasant, and I didn't want to get into that. So I ended up developing a significant part of my practice as outsourced accounting services. And one thing led to the other, and that portfolio grew significantly.
So, given that you were into outsourcing, how closely were you related to technology back then?
Not to a great extent, because the focus was still more on compliances.
Okay.
And it used to be completely all 360 degree, whether it was direct taxes, indirect taxes, FEMA, RBI and all of that.
Yeah.
Back then used to be also some FIPB compliances required, approvals, etc. And then what happened was very interesting. A leading client, a leading company that has been my client since almost 25 plus years, even to date, they were moving to a global outsourced accounting and corporate services provider across many regions.
All right.
That global firm didn't have presence in India.
Okay.
So my client connected both of us. Okay. And I liked that idea. So I brought that global firm to India, set them up, and I jocularly say that I sold my roadside cafe to a Starbucks. And
nice.
Became part of them, grew their practice in India significantly over about 7.5 years.
Okay.
And that was fun as well, to see a private equity backed global firm, how they work, how they operate, what their growth approaches are. So that was very interesting experience as well.
So given that you got in that global client over here and helped them set up their process and all of it in India, did you find that you were inclined towards the industry, or did you find yourself still wanting to be in the practice?
So it was still a practice in another form, right? I mean, corporatization of practice is a trend. Probably I was early into that trend at that point of time.
So if you were to recall, how many people were there in your team at that point of time?
So when I was running my own firm, we were about 25 odd people.
Okay.
And then when I went into this practice after 7.5 years, we were probably 200-300 staff. So it was good. Almost 8 to 10x of what I used to do independently is what we ended up doing. I think 12x is what we ended up doing in that firm.
So you saw yourself growing in that aspect as well, where you're first leading a team of 25 and now you're leading and then you started leading a team of say 200 or 200 odd people. Did that incline you towards moving to Deloitte?
Yes, and what was interesting is for a chartered accountant, Big Four are always the ultimate dream.
Yeah.
And I also realized that in that global firm, the previous firm, we were still restricted to a bouquet of service that wasn't solving all of the client's problem. So what I found very interesting with Deloitte was A, similar or better work culture, and B, opportunity to network with the other professionals, offering a diverse range of solutions, helping clients solve their business problems. So that was what excited me, and this very practice was very nascent within Deloitte at that stage. So I also took that as a challenge to grow something from beginning, because that has been my passion all throughout, I would say. And when I joined Deloitte, this practice was very, very, I would say, in infancy, with about 50 odd staff, and no dedicated partner looking after it. So I was the first dedicated partner. Today we have grown significantly to about 5 partners and almost 350 plus staff. So that has been a satisfactory journey as well.
Yeah. Have you, do you ever look back and you see, how you've grown throughout the years with every decision that you've made?
Yes, I do. And in fact, I talk to my children and I say that, look, my career has been more like a whitewater rafting. It's not been a motorboat ride, but yeah, I've enjoyed that part of the journey. It has been more opportunistic than a planned one, but yes, happy the way it has evolved.
That's nice. And in the meanwhile, you also played a significant role in SEBI. Would you tell me a little bit about that?
It was a small role. It was more for me to learn a lot, because I was included as a member in a SEBI committee chaired by the great Mr. Narayan Murthy.
Okay.
That was set up to review corporate governance in the wake of Sarbanes-Oxley development in the US.
Yeah.
And so this committee was tasked to review the corporate governance regulations prevailing at that point of time.
Okay.
So what I actually ended up observing a lot, I mean, my contribution would have been minimal, because I was a rookie still, but I did play a small role in that. But more importantly, the way Murthy sir conducted the meeting and in a very time-bound manner came out with a report was really amazing, and I learnt a lot.
Nitin, you also played a very significant role in BCS, which is Bombay Chartered Accountants Society, right? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
It was very interesting that BCS was set up just within 6 days after government set up ICAI, the parent body.
Oh, okay.
This is a voluntary association. So the leaders at that point of time thought it fit to have an independent voluntary association. And the focus has been largely on continuous professional education, spread of education. At the same time, also advocating fair and good laws, and representing any of the grievances the community at large has on account of various regulations that we have, and also provide awareness services to the citizens. So with these objectives, BCS was set up, and I think it becomes more relevant in today's time as we see a lot of complex laws and regulations which require, in order to analyze, to dissect, an independent platform where professionals from across a community can come together and come up, dissect, and also engage with the regulators in a non-partisan way. So BCS continues to play a great role. It also encourages professionals to be principle centered, and I think I have derived a lot of strength out of BCS community, and so I ever remain grateful to them, and I continue to contribute in whichever way I can.
That's nice. So given that you were part of SEBI and then you were part of BCS, and now you're a partner at Deloitte, how do you see all these correlating to each other?
It does, because see, professional has to be a complete professional, and I think developing diverse perspectives of the personality are important, because as a partner, for example, you need to engage with various stakeholders, community, government, and of course clients. So the experiences at SEBI, for example, or at BCS help prepares a person to take up those roles as well.
So were you also teaching at this point of time, or that had stopped?
So when I was part of that SEBI committee, I used to teach at management colleges, but all of that started, I couldn't cope up, so I had to give up teaching part of it.
Correct. So I also know that you've been an author to a lot of articles.
Few, not lot.
I've read them personally, so that's why I said a lot. So you do like, you do have a flair for writing, right? So what drove you to that?
I think writing, I believe, is something that brings clarity in our own thinking. I think it is important that we end up writing. I don't write as much as I would like to, though I keep making attempts now and then. But I think it helped me, refine my own thought process and share whatever I feel passionate about with the larger community. So yeah, that has been part of my career as well.
Tell me one significant article that was really close to you, especially in the terms of your accounting and financial aspect of life, which till date has been spoken about.
I wouldn't say it's been spoken about, but I think what I find is that for a chartered accountant who gets very obsessed with technical knowledge, at times in a practice you have to look at the larger perspective.
Yeah.
So what I find is the term that is used is trusted advisor.
Okay.
So I found this very important book on the topic called Trusted Advisor by David Meister.
Okay.
And what I felt is not enough discussion was happening around that. So I ended up summarizing that book and publishing that in BCS. I feel happy that I could do a good digest of that book in a small article, and I feel passionate about that topic as well.
That's nice.
I've of course done a couple of technical writings as well, but technical writing with changes in laws and regulations have a limited shelf life.
Correct. Yeah. And so Nitin, tell me something which is a trend that you see coming across in different firms, say at Deloitte, what is a trend, or in general, what is a trend at a big four, where you see it can affect the small size firms or something like that?
I wouldn't say small size firms need to worry about big four as such. But general trend that I see is with a lot of digitization that is happening in all our lives.
Correct.
It's going to impact on various things. There will be pressures on cost.
Okay.
There will be scale and volumes will become the game.
Okay.
And therefore everyone will need to invest in technology. Everybody will need to look at how they can solve clients' problem from a multi-dimensional point of view.
Okay.
So I would imagine that a lot of small-scale players will have to find their niche. Okay. Unless they reinvent themselves and identify a niche area, there will be a lot of areas which will be niche available, niche opportunities available to them. There will be struggle. For Big Four also, there will be obviously challenges that will be there because they are driven by a lot of systems and processes.
Yeah.
And in order to be agile and flexible, they'll also need to be on their toes. So yeah, interesting times ahead.
Yeah, so given that you've also written an article about technology and how it can help a firm run the organization, what is a trend or what do you have in mind when it comes to AI, given that that's one of the trending subjects? How can that help someone?
AI is going to be part of our life. These are very early days. It's still in a beta stage or trial and error stage. There will be two dimensions to AI, I would believe. Okay. One, of course, the government and authorities have already started deploying a lot of technology at their end, and therefore they will be trying to stay one step ahead. Okay. And the taxpayers and advisors will have to cope up or continue to strive to maybe stay one step ahead of the authorities. So in a positive way. Secondly, I would believe that AI can automate a lot of routine activities and tasks.
Okay.
Therefore, giving opportunity to the advisors, to the accounting and tax community to focus on a lot of value-added aspects. It could be about data analytics. It would be about predictive way. It could be about business advisory, because ultimately all data and analysis can help only up to a certain way. Somebody will have to listen and translate that into what are going to be various options for the businesses, and how should one look at pros and cons of various options. So there will be a lot of wisdom that will be required, and I think the accounting and tax advisor community can develop on that aspect as well.
So given that you juggle multiple roles and you've achieved so much in your life, what is your advice to someone who is picking up the a career right now, whether it's going to be CA or not CA?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think you say prioritization, and that's important as well, because multitasking is probably the name of the game these days. We get messages from different channels, right? I mean, there are tons of emails, WhatsApp messages and whatnot, calls and all of that we need to attend. So in this age, how do we cope up? So my take is, we need to learn to prioritize.
Okay.
And we need to be self-organized.
Do you have any funda which you have in your mind?
Yes, in fact, these days, whenever I'm called to deliver a talk to or engage with the young professionals, especially on their career path, we have our manager milestone programs in Deloitte.
Correct.
And so I bring up this KSH model, and I make it interesting for them that how many of you want to earn a lot of CSH?
Okay. Which is everyone.
Everybody. And I said that this KSH will help you focus on KSH, that will help you earn a lot of CSH. So KSH is knowledge, attitude, skills and habit. KSH, knowledge, attitude, skills and habit. Knowledge and skills are part of the learning.
That's nice. So what do you still want to achieve, if you could share with us?
No, I think...
if there's one unfulfilled dream of yours that you still want to do.
No, so obviously, having been part of the accounting practice for a while, I would be looking at, evaluating option if I have to start as Nitin 2.0,
Correct.
What it would be. I'm still in the exploratory stage, maybe an entrepreneurship venture or something else. I have not yet thought about it. But yeah, at some point I would definitely look at what that would be.
That's nice. So I think at that point of time we will also interview Nitin 2.0 because
look forward to that.
I'm sure it would be a different person that I would be talking to, but also with the same values.
Yeah.
So I have a few questions when it comes to technology.
Sure.
I would be using my phone over here to refer to them. So one thing is, what do you perceive as the biggest challenge for tax professionals in embracing technology-driven changes?
I think there are two parts to it, two challenges I perceive. One is the skills gap, right? There is clearly a lot of professionals from veterans finding it difficult to adapt to technology.
Yeah.
And that remains a major challenge. But a greater challenge still is the willingness to change.
Correct.
I think that resistance to change itself is a bigger problem.
So coming back to one of the articles that you had written, you mentioned something about open networks. So how do you see the gig economy affecting tax professionals these days, or does that have an impact on, like, say, chartered accountants?
No, sure. So already there are freelancer models evolving, right? And will continue to evolve. And chartered accountants can, or generally tax and accounting professionals, or any professionals for that matter, can look at this in two ways. One, obviously those who are specializing into any niche activities and who want to run as solo entrepreneurs can get a lot of opportunities through that kind of network. Secondly, a lot of firms would be able to augment their staff through the gig economy or gig platforms that would help them overcome any immediate requirement in their staffing.
Okay.
Apart from that, I think it will also help in accessing global markets, because these platforms today, I think Indian profession is becoming one of the best in the world in terms of capability. We are already witnessing from India a lot of these global capability centers are serving global markets in terms of their global tax and accounting requirements.
Yeah.
So I envisage that a lot of us will be able to leverage such platforms and open networks to access global markets as well. So both on demand and supply side, I see huge potential for open networks and gig platforms to evolve.
Yeah, that's a very interesting take, because that happens both in the technology front as well as so in any profession, like you mentioned. One question which I had was, how do you foresee robotic automation and process automation, all of that happening, and how, say, a firm can implement it?
Yes, sure. Obviously, they'll need to stay on top of the technology and see how the transaction processing can be automated to the extent possible. This will also help them drive the efficiencies of the scale and drive down cost. But at the same time, this will also mean a lot of consolidation of practices, because no longer it would be a situation where smaller firms will be able to afford not just in terms of money, it's just about the bandwidth also that they would have available in technology. And also what will happen is this will require multidisciplinary approach to managing technology driven solutions. There will be technologists who will be part of the team as well. And I see a lot of multi-dimensional practice evolving as well.
Okay.
Multidisciplinary model, as it's typically referred to as MDM, will evolve in a stronger way through this technology evolution.
I think it's already started, and it's still it's still yet to reach its peak.
That's right.
So Nitin, on this show, we have a tradition which we've been following, where the previous person that we interviewed would have left a question for you. It's on a generic basis, and I would love for you to answer that question. So on the previous episode, we had CA Mayur Agarwal on the show, and he was like, role CA will play as India reaches its 100 years of independence.
I think that's a very important question, and I clearly see, as our Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji spoke to the Chartered Accountants community. I think CAs need to play the role of nation builders.
Okay.
I think if you look at our freedom struggle, and in past lawyers have dominated the scene, and I think it is important for the Chartered Accountants to go beyond their own practice and the clients or industry they work with, and see how they can contribute more to the nation building, because their understanding of the finance, their understanding of the laws and regulation and economy in general can help them contribute a lot more to the nation building. So I clearly see them playing different roles, all aggregating to nation building.
That's nice. And can you please drop in a question for the next CA that comes in? Make it as generic as possible.
Sure.
Thank you so much. We will reveal this question on the next episode, and thank you for this conversation that we have had. We have a small token of appreciation for you towards the end of the episode. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have had a engaging conversation, and now I would want to bring in the fun aspect of your side, and have a sneak peek into that. Yeah. So,
I don't know, accountants are typically known as boring.
No, there's always a fun side to a person.
That's right. So an introvert is one who looks at his own shoes, and extrovert looks at the neighbor's shoes.
So this segment is called Beyond the Balance Sheets. I'm just going to pick up a few questions.
Sure.
Look at my phone. I'm sorry, pardon me for that.
No.
But yeah, you had, like, you had your own practice, right? And in that, what was the most amusing or creative expense claim that you've ever seen?
Amazing expense
Amusing.
claim. No, I think obviously there was this client where there was a scrutiny, and in the personal balance sheet there were some personal expenses which were not claimed as business expenses.
Correct.
But there was a wedding in the family.
Okay.
And they had claimed certain amount as the wedding expense,
Okay.
which the tax officer felt was understated.
Yeah.
And there was a claim for video recording of the event, and the officer said, please give me a copy of this video cassette. and that triggered a lot of anxiety on part of the client, and that's where I was feeling very uncomfortable dealing with the tax office, being a bridge between tax office and the client in that situation. So that was one of the reason why I took a turn towards more corporate practice.
Yeah. So then I want to understand one more thing. If you could assign an accounting term, this is my next question. If you can assign an accounting term to, say, the 7 days of the week, what would you do? How would you do it?
Accounting term, I think it's important to look at the balance sheet on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. And draw your own debits and credits during the day. So I wouldn't ascribe a different term to every day, but I would say that please make sure that you put together your personal balance sheet in terms of what you have achieved and what you could have achieved or you missed out on a daily basis. So tally your balance sheet on a daily basis.
That's nice. So at the end of the day, when you go to sleep, your balance sheet should be tallied.
Absolutely.
That's a very nice aspect. Actually, it's a very deep thought also, yes, if you look at it. So, what's the funniest accounting joke you've ever heard?
I think I just mentioned that to you, right? Accountants are typically introverts.
Okay.
Most of them end up looking at their own shoes. An extrovert accountant is one who looks at the neighbor's shoes. But fun apart, I think it is important for accountants to be able to be a little more extrovert, because it's not just enough to be personally. I've seen, in fact, someone who secured first rank in all India, both CA Inter final and even gold medal at the BCom level. I would believe that he would have been able to fulfill much more of his potential if he was a little more extrovert. So I think it's important to develop that aspect also.
It's a skill set which is required.
Absolutely. It's skill, it's attitude, it's also habit, all rolled into one.
Definitely. So if you were to give financial advice to your fictional character, your favorite fictional character, example Phantom, what would you do?
I think it is important to be clear about the money part. In fact, I also talk to the young chartered accountants, and I find that many of us feel that we know the finance well, but we don't really look at our personal side of affairs very closely, because we are so much engrossed in focusing on clients' aspect that we tend to neglect our personal finance.
Okay.
And that's one area which I think the only kind of, if you were to ask me, control or delete, Nitin, how would you relive your life? I would be a little more proactive at managing my personal finance. Rest of the life is all fine.
Oh, okay, that's nice. So have you ever encountered a financial concept that you thought was complicated at first, and but then it turned out to be very simple?
Yeah, I mean, the IFRS Ind AS, for example, are concepts which are perceived to be complex, right? At the end of the day, they ultimately tend to the commonsensical concepts. So if you look at it from that point of view, those are not that complex as we would imagine them to be. But it's important to stay on top of that so that we understand the intricacies.
I remember when I read Ind AS and IFRS for the first time, I was like, what is going on? It never occurred to me to look at it as a common perspective.
That's right. See, ultimately, there are 4 quadrants, right?
Yeah.
Liabilities, assets, income and expenditure.
Correct. So touch bases on each quadrant.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's nice. So one more question. If you had a travel back in time and advise a famous historical figure on managing their finances, who would it be and why?
Famous historical figure. There would be so many of them, but and what could be the personal finance advice or a financial advice?
Just in general, even if it can be like a company also, which you would want to give advice.
I would go back and tell Mrs. Indira Gandhi that the socialistic approach that she adopted was all misplaced. And had we actually opened up economy, what Manmohan Singh ji did in 90s, if that would have happened in 70s, India would have been much ahead.
That's very nice. So thank you for this conversation. I've really enjoyed having a talk with you, and thank you for being on the show, Nitin. And it's a pleasure having you over here.
Thank you so much, Geena. Thank you. Pleasure is all mine as well.
Thank you so much.
And hopefully, Nitin 2.0 will come back.
Definitely. We'll have you back on the show.
Thank you.
So Nitin, as a token of appreciation, this is for you. And thank you so much for being on the show and answering my questions very patiently.
Thank you so much, Geena. Pleasure is all mine, and thank you so much. I look forward to more such opportunities.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.